Hey guys, and welcome back. So, I want to introduce you to someone who's had a pretty dramatic year. This is my hibiscus. Now, if you've been around my channel for a while, I don't really try to hide the messy parts. I have things die too, even though I try. And so, when I was first gifted this lovely tree, it was in complete shock. It dropped about half of its leaves, and there were a couple moments I wasn't sure that it was going to make it. And then, just as she started to recover, my cat declared all-out war on her, and no matter where I put her, she was gnawing on her leaves, and you can still see some of the chewed up leaves here. Now, I have absolutely no idea why Cheddar wanted to declare war on the hibiscus. Maybe she liked pretty flowers. Maybe she thinks she's helping me prune. Maybe she's secretly trying to become an herbalist because she's like, I can do it better than you can, Mom. I honestly don't know. All I know is every time this poor plant started to recover, here comes Cheddar to destroy her. Now, I have given her her own security system. She is up on a stand now, so we can't just walk by and gnaw on things, right? I actually keep her pretty far away from this porch, the couch on the porch, because she's launched herself at the plant. And if you have plants and animals, well, you understand the struggle. Now, we can look at her now. She is green. She is healthy. She's got a few gnawed places, but we're going to ignore those. She's putting on a lot of new growth, which is exciting, right? She may not bloom this year because she spent so much time recovering, right, from the shock of everything that's happened to her. And honestly, I'm okay with that, right? She had her own little nervous breakdown, right? But she's going to be okay. Recovery is what she needs at this moment, right? And that's a lesson for all of us too, right? Sometimes we're so focused on producing that we forget recovery is productive. Plants know that, right? When they get really stressed, they drop all their leaves to shoot everything back down to the roots. So I think we should probably remember that too. Now, even if she was covered in gorgeous flowers all over her today, today's lesson isn't actually about the flower. It's about what comes after the flower, right? So, I have a question for you. What do you think this is? Right? Many people would say that is a dried hibiscus flower. Honestly, that's what a lot of people have called them for years, right? And that's what most herbal companies actually market them as too. So this is where some of the confusion comes in. You'll actually see it on recipe, in the teas and stuff. It's called hibiscus flower, right? But here's something really interesting. Most hibiscus tea isn't made with the petals. It's actually made with the calyx. So after the flower blooms, those beautiful petals eventually fall away. And then a thick, fleshy red structure surrounding the seed pod begins to enlarge. That is the calyx, right? That's the part that is harvested, dried, and most commonly used to make hibiscus tea that you know and love today. So every time you enjoy that beautiful ruby red cup of hibiscus tea, you're usually drinking the calyx, not the petals. It smells pretty good too. So it's little facts like that I love, because once you know them, you never really look at hibiscus tea quite the same way again. Now, caution, because I remember the first time that I worked with hibiscus, I had fresh, right? And I thought, oh, this is going to make the most beautiful cup of tea I've ever had in my entire life, right? Well, about 5 minutes later, my cutting board was pink. My hands were pink. The sink was pink. The towel I was using was pink. And I was really wondering, was I tie-dyeing or was I making tea? Right? And a lot of plants are actually used for both purposes, right? And if you've ever worked with hibiscus, well, You know what I'm talking about. Fingers are probably going to turn pink just sitting here too. That rich ruby red color gets everywhere. Watch a stupid thing blow over now. But it also makes one absolutely gorgeous cup of tea. So that's why hibiscus has become such a favorite among herbalists, right? But why do we continue to turn back to it? Well, it's delicious, it's bright, it's refreshing. I actually have a hibiscus fire cider video out there too because I like it so much. And if you've ever had cranberry juice, right, you'll notice that same kind of tang, tart flavor. And it's one of the reasons that I kind of keep it in my apothecary outside of the cardiovascular traditional supports, right? It'll kind of brighten up just about any tea blend you have out there. So historically, hibiscus has been enjoyed as a cooling herb, right? Particularly in warm climates. Within our cardiovascular series, it's especially interesting because modern researchers have studied hibiscus tea for its potential role in supporting the cardiovascular wellness. And some studies have explored its effects on maintaining healthy blood pressure that's already within a normal range. And others have looked at healthy blood vessel functions and its antioxidant activities. So part of what makes hibiscus so interesting is its naturally occurring compounds, right? And those beautiful deep red pigments aren't just pretty. Well, they're fascinating, right? And that's why researchers continue to study them. Now, does this make hibiscus magical? Well, no. Does it replace medication? No, absolutely not. I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on YouTube, but I do think it's remarkable that something as simple as a cup of tea has been appreciated for generations and continues to attract scientific interest even today. Now, here's where I think beginning herbalists really start to level up. Sometimes I don't reach for hibiscus because I want another cardiovascular herb, right? Sometimes my formulation isn't even about the cardiovascular system. Sometimes I reach for hibiscus because I want a better tasting tea, right? And that's an important lesson. Not every herb in a blend has to be there because it's the main herb. Sometimes it's there because it balances the flavor. Sometimes it's there because we want a really pretty color. Sometimes it's there because it encourages someone to actually drink the tea, right? There's some herbs out there that are funky to drink, so you want to add something to it, right? For example, would I add a little hibiscus to a calming nervine tea? Absolutely. Not because I'm trying to turn it into a cardiovascular formula, but because a little hibiscus pairs beautifully with herbs like lemon balm and rose and oat straw, right? Even skullcap could use a little help sometimes. And that little bit of brightness can completely change the experience of drinking that tea. And that's something new herbalists often overlook, right? They get so focused on formulation and the chemistry of it, but it's really about the experience itself. Because especially with teas, if they taste terrible, you will never get somebody to consistently drink it, right? And hibiscus is also incredibly versatile, right? You can do it as hot teas, iced teas, sun teas. Like I said, I've got a fire cider with it. It blends beautifully with rose hips, peppermint, ginger, right? You think about all the things we've done, start to think about adding a little bit of this, right? It goes well with cinnamon and, as I said, lemon balm and rose. So it's one of those herbs that almost always earns its place on my shelf because there's so much you can do with it, right? That it's not kind of just locked into this is the only place we use it. So as always, the unfun part, even though hibiscus is widely enjoyed as a beverage, it is still an herb. And because it may lower blood pressure in some people, anyone taking blood pressure medication or who naturally has low blood pressure should talk to their healthcare provider before using large medicinal amounts regularly. And as always, pregnant or nursing women should check with their healthcare provider before using any herb, right? Responsible herbalism, again, means understanding both the benefits and situations where we should use extra caution. It's just common sense, people. So, what do I hope you remember from today's video? Well, honestly, not just that hibiscus supports the cardiovascular system. I hope you remember that herbalism is about paying attention, right? Paying attention to the plant, paying attention to the preparation, right? Paying attention to flavor and the person sitting in front of you. That's important. It's always important, even if that person's in the mirror, right? Sometimes that the part that everyone notices isn't actually the part that we're using, right? We're learning that, right? The hibiscus petals get all of the attention, but it's usually the calyx that ends up in your teacup. And sometimes, just like this hibiscus behind me, growth doesn't always look like flowers. Sometimes growth is stronger roots. Sometimes growth is recovery. And recovery is still progress. So, it's also important to keep your plants away from your cats. That's another lesson to learn for today. She is really so happy. So, if you enjoyed my rant about cats and hibiscus trees, stay tuned for next time, because I think we're going to move into rose next. We're getting to the end. Because really, to me, there's a lot of heavy hitters for the cardiovascular system. So we don't need to go into a whole bunch of the little itty bitty ones right now. We're just trying to scratch the surface of each system. And honestly, long-term plan of this, when you see where we're going, you'll actually understand kind of why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. But until next time, guys, stay rooted, stay curious, and as always, keep growing in grace.